Imagine a world without the quick clack of keys, without typed letters, and without the documents that shaped modern business and communication. Before the typewriter, every letter, every record, every piece of writing had to be done by hand, slow, tiring, and often hard to read. The typewriter changed all of that. But where did it come from? Who had the first idea? And how did this machine evolve into the familiar tool that once sat on nearly every desk? The story of the typewriter is not one of a single invention or a single genius. It is a story of many attempts, many failures, and many improvements spread across centuries. It begins not in the 1800s as many assume, but far earlier with strange prototypes and experiments. Early beginnings, dreams of a writing machine. The idea of a machine that could help people write faster is very old. As early as the 16th century, inventors in Europe were already dreaming of mechanical devices that could replace handwriting. The first known attempt is often credited to an Italian named Francesco Rampizzetto in 1575. He designed a machine that could imprint letters onto paper. His invention never became popular, but it planted a seed, the dream of mechanical writing. In the early 1700s, as Europe embraced new technologies, inventors began experimenting with mechanical writing devices. The first recorded attempt came in 1714, when Henry Mill, an English engineer, patented a machine for impressing or transcribing of letters singly or progressively one after another. His patent described a device that could produce clear, uniform text, but no working model or detailed plans have survived. Mill's idea was likely a response to the growing need for legible documents in trade and government, where handwritten papers were often slow to produce and prone to errors. Other early experiments followed. In 1784, an Austrian inventor named Wolfgang von Kempelen created a mechanical writing device for a blind noblewoman. The 19th century, a century of invention. The real story of the typewriter begins in the 1800s. During this century, more than 50 different inventors tried to make a machine that could type. Most of their creations were clumsy and unreliable, but little by little they improved. One of the first major attempts came in 1808 when Pellegrino Turri, an Italian inventor, created a machine for his blind friend, Countess Carolina Fantoni da Fivizzano. His typewriter allowed her to write letters she could not do by hand. Turri's machine is lost today, but some of the letters she wrote on it still survive. This shows us that the typewriter was not only about speed, it was also about accessibility and independence. By the mid-1800s, inventors in Europe and America were racing to create the first practical typewriter. Dozens of patents were filed. Each one had its own design. Some looked like pianos, some like sewing machines, and others like boxes with strange levers. The first typewriter, a breakthrough in America. By the mid-19th century, the Industrial Revolution was transforming society, with factories, telegraphs, and railways speeding up life. The need for fast, legible documents grew, especially in businesses and newspapers. In 1868, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Christopher Latham Sholes, a printer and inventor, along with his colleagues Carlos Glidden and Samuel Soule, developed the first commercially practical typewriter. Sholes had been inspired by a magazine article about a writing machine and set out to create one that could replace handwriting with printed text. Their typewriter, patented in 1868, was a wooden box with a keyboard of black and white keys arranged alphabetically. Pressing a key caused a metal type bar with a raised letter to strike an inked ribbon against paper, printing a single character. The machine was slow and clunky, requiring the user to press hard, and the paper was held in a frame that moved manually. Early models were unreliable, with type bars jamming if keys were pressed too quickly. Still, the device worked, producing clear text faster than handwriting. In 1873, Sholes sold his patent to E. Remington and Sons, a company known for making firearms and sewing machines. Remington refined the design, creating the Sholes and Glidden typewriter, which went on sale in 1874. This model introduced the QWERTY keyboard, designed to prevent jamming by spacing out common letter pairs. Made of wood and iron with brass keys, it was heavy and expensive, costing about $125, a significant sum at the time. It was marketed to businesses, journalists, and telegraph operators who valued its speed and clarity. The Remington typewriter was a success, though sales were initially slow. Clerks and secretaries, mostly men at the time, began using it in offices, and it caught the attention of writers like Mark Twain, who claimed to be the first author to submit a typed manuscript, likely Life on the Mississippi in 1883. The typewriter's arrival marked a turning point, making written communication faster and more standardized. Refining the machine, improvements and popularity, 1880s to 1900s. The success of the Remington typewriter spurred competition and innovation. By the 1880s, dozens of companies, including Underwood, Royal, and Smith Corona, entered the market, each improving the design. One major issue with early typewriters was blind typing. Users couldn't see the text as they typed, as the type bars struck the underside of the paper. In 1890, the Underwood Typewriter Company introduced a visible typewriter, where type bars hit the front of the paper, allowing users to see their work instantly. This became the standard for future designs. Another key innovation was the shift key, introduced in the 1878 Remington No. 2 model. It allowed typists to switch between uppercase and lowercase letters without needing separate keys for each, reducing the keyboard's size. Typewriters also became lighter, with frames made of steel instead of iron, and more durable, with improved ribbons and type bars. By the 1890s, typewriters were used in offices across Europe and North America, transforming business communication. They were still expensive, but prices dropped as production scaled up. Typewriters also changed society. They created new jobs, particularly for women who entered the workforce as typists, a role previously dominated by men. Typing schools opened, teaching touch typing, where users memorized the keyboard to type without looking. The typewriter's uniform text made documents like contracts and reports more professional, and it became essential in journalism, where reporters type stories for quick printing. Materials evolved too. Typewriters used steel frames, brass or nickel-plated keys, and rubber rollers to move paper smoothly. Inked ribbons, made of cotton or silk, were wound on spools, delivering consistent ink. Portable typewriters, like the Blickensderfer, appeared in the 1990s, weighing less than 10 pounds and appealing to riders and travelers. By 1900, the typewriter was a symbol of progress, its distinctive clack echoing in offices and homes. The Golden Age, typewriters everywhere, 1900s to 1960s. The 20th century was the typewriter's peak. By the 1910s, companies like Underwood, Remington, and Royal were producing millions of typewriters with models for every need. Heavy office machines, portable versions for writers, and specialized typewriters for accountants, with extra keys for numbers. Typewriters were now affordable, costing $20 to $50, and appeared in homes, schools, and libraries. They were made of steel and aluminum, with plastic keys in later models, and came in colors like black, green, or gray. Electric typewriters, first introduced in the 1920s by companies like IBM, made typing easier. Powered by motors, they required less force to press keys, reducing fatigue. The IBM Selectric, launched in 1961, was a game changer. It used a rotating type ball instead of type bars, allowing users to change fonts by swapping balls. It was fast, quiet, and reliable, dominating offices in the 1960s and 1970s. Electric models used plastic components and electronic circuits, reflecting the era's technological advances. Typewriters shaped culture profoundly. Writers like Ernest Hemingway and Agatha Christie typed their novels, valuing the machine's directness. In offices, armies of typists, now mostly women, produced reports, letters, and invoices. Typewriters were used in war, with portable models carried by journalists and soldiers to type dispatches. They also appeared in films and literature, symbolizing creativity and efficiency. Globally, typewriters adapted to local needs. In Japan, typewriters with thousands of kanji characters were developed, though they were complex and less common than Western models. In India, typewriters supported multiple scripts like Hindi and Tamil, aiding colonial and post-independence administration. By mid-century, the typewriter was a global tool, its design refined but still rooted in Sholes' original concept. Decline and legacy, the digital age, 1970s to present. By the 1970s, the typewriter faced competition from computers and word processors. Early word processors, like the IBM word processor, 1970s, offered digital screens and editing capabilities, making typewriters seem outdated. By the 1980s, personal computers with software like Word Process and Microsoft Word began replacing typewriters in offices. These devices allowed users to edit text before printing, unlike typewriters, which required manual corrections with whiteout or ribbons. Typewriter production declined sharply by the 1990s. Companies like Remington and Smith Corona stopped making them, and IBM shifted to computers. However, typewriters didn't vanish entirely. Some writers and hobbyists preferred their tactile feel, and small manufacturers continued producing them in places like India and China. In prisons and developing countries, typewriters remained in use due to their simplicity and lack of need for electricity. The typewriter's legacy endures in modern technology. The QWERTY keyboard, designed to prevent jamming, remains the standard for computers and smartphones. The ding of a typewriter's carriage return inspired notification sounds in early software. Typewriter fonts, like Courier, are still used for their nostalgic, uniform look. In recent years, typewriters have seen a revival among enthusiasts, with collectors restoring vintage models and artists using them for unique projects. Today, typewriters are rare but cherished. They are found in museums, antique shops, or the desks of writers seeking a distraction-free experience. Their history reflects a bridge between the handwritten past and the digital present, a testament to human ingenuity in making words permanent and accessible.